This is Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 1456. Happiness at the Misfortune of Mate Rivals by Dr. Lisa Hoplock of Luvze.com. Hello, everybody, and thanks so much for taking some time out of your weekend to join us here on ORD. I'm Greg Audino, your host and narrator. Happy to be here with you, sharing more content that can help you better understand and approach your own relationships. Now, today we will look to Luvze.com, and in this article, like many of their articles, we're going to be treated to some interesting research about jealousy, more or less, and how our race to find a mate might be impacting us in ways that we don't realize. So let's get right to it and start optimizing your life. Happiness at the Misfortune of Mate Rivals by Dr. Lisa Hoplock of Luvze.com. Have you ever seen something bad happen to someone and just felt a little bit happy about it? Or even laughed a little? Think Tosh.0 or America's Funniest Home Videos submissions. That's called schadenfreude, which occurs when you experience happiness because of the misfortune of others. Seems kind of mean, doesn't it? So, why do we experience schadenfreude, and what purpose might it serve in relationships? A group of researchers hypothesized that experiencing schadenfreude signals to oneself that the mate value, or how desirable a person is to a potential romantic partner, of the misfortunate person has been decreased. For example, a group of women may laugh at a man who trips and may see him as less of a catch than a man who strides by confidently. The researchers also thought that if others' mate values decreases due to misfortune, then one's own mate value experiences a relative boost. So, if a man witnesses another man tripping, then he might think to himself, "Ha! He just made a fool of himself. I'm smoother than that guy, which makes me a better potential partner." The researchers predicted that schadenfreude is especially likely to occur between people who compete for the same mates. Thus, a man might be more likely to experience schadenfreude when he sees another man tripping compared to when he sees a woman tripping. They conducted 2 studies to test these hypotheses and focused their attention on friendships, because friends sometimes compete for the same mates. In their first study, the researchers asked participants to describe a time when they felt schadenfreude as a result of something that happened to a friend of the opposite gender or the same gender. The participants also answered questions about how happy they would feel about various misfortunes occurring to their opposite or same-gender friends. Schadenfreude was common. All but one of the 285 participants were able to recall a time when they experienced schadenfreude. Moreover, as predicted, participants felt greater happiness at the misfortune of same-gender friends than they did for opposite-gender friends. The researchers also looked at whether certain misfortunes were more likely to elicit schadenfreude in men than women, and vice versa. They found that indeed men and women were more likely to be happy after different types of misfortunes had occurred to their same-gender friends. For example, men were more likely than women to experience schadenfreude after a same-gender friend experienced a loss in social status, like by missing a big play in a sports game. Whereas women were more likely than men to experience schadenfreude after a same-gender friend experienced a loss in physical attractiveness, like by breaking out in acne. This makes evolutionary sense when we consider that men often desire physical attractiveness in a long-term partner, making it an important indicator of a woman's mate value. And women often desire social status in a long-term partner, making it an important indicator of a man's mate value. The second study focused on same-gender friendships and tested the researchers' ideas about schadenfreude signaling change in mate value. In this study, the researchers asked participants to think of a same-gender friend whom they envied and rate how much they envied their friend. Participants then imagined that this friend had either gained 15 pounds or had failed 2 major exams, rated how happy they were about their friend's misfortune, rated their own and their friend's mate value, and indicated how close they were to their friend. Overall, participants didn't experience much schadenfreude when imagining their friend's misfortune, especially if they were close to their friend. They did experience some schadenfreude, though. As expected, women experienced more schadenfreude after imagining that their friend gained 15 pounds compared to failed 2 major exams. Men, on the other hand, experienced the same level of schadenfreude, whether they imagined that their friend gained weight or failed the exams. Thus, people seem to tune into what attracts a mate and the simple act of thinking about an envied friend experiencing a misfortune related to mate value can make people feel just a little bit happier. Although participants weren't explicitly asked if they saw their friend as a mate rival, participants did somewhat envy their friend, and participants who were single envied their friend more than participants who were in a relationship. In addition, participants rated their friend as having a higher mate value than themselves. Thus, it's possible that they saw their friend as a rival. However, even with this notion in mind, the hypotheses that others' mate value decreases due to misfortune and one's own mate value experiences a relative boost were not supported. Participants' ratings of their own and of their friend's mate value did not vary depending on the scenario imagined, even when the misfortune in the scenario was important to their gender's mate value. So, for example, even though women experienced more schadenfreude after imagining that their friend gained 15 pounds, they didn't rate themselves as having a higher mate value than their friend in this scenario. Nor did participants who imagined their friend gaining 15 pounds rate their friend as having a lower mate value than those who imagined their friend failing 2 major exams. This research tells us that it's common to laugh at someone's slight misfortune, and that we're more likely to do it when it happens to be a same-gender friend than an opposite-gender friend, potentially because the former may be a mate rival. However, we are less likely to be happy when something really bad happens to a friend, like if the friend is beaten up, or if it's our best friend who experiences the misfortune. And finally, this research suggests that we might not raise our own mate value and lower the mate value of misfortunate others when we experience schadenfreude. Nonetheless, more research is needed before we can discredit this idea. The researchers did not explore the idea as fully as they did with their other hypothesis, and there are a variety of reasons why the idea may not have been supported in the one study where they tested it. E.g., it's possible that rating strangers instead of friends would have elicited the change in perception of mate value. In sum, if you laugh when a cocky friend gets taken down a notch, especially if the friend is a potential rival, it could be because it might signal to you and others that the cocky friend is not so desirable after all. You just listened to the post titled, Happiness at the Misfortune of Mate Rivals by Dr. Lisa Hoplock of Luvze.com. And some really fascinating results of a great study, as is tradition with Luvze.com. Thanks to Dr. Lisa and the team of researchers for sharing. Now, as far as my own hypotheses go, I'd be really interested to hear about the types of situations that cause us to experience schadenfreude repeatedly, and what they might tell us about our own insecurities. While the competition for mates is certainly a widely encompassing subconscious drive, I would bet that we are more likely to be triggered and experience schadenfreude if we see a competitor failing in an area that we ourselves worry about failing in. So, for example, if we feel very confident in our physical fitness, we may show more compassion towards someone who isn't as fast, strong, or energetic as us. However, if we are insecure about our intellect, for example, to see someone else fail a test might be more likely to activate schadenfreude. So if you're like the many people who can recall experiencing this feeling, see if you can go a step further by considering what those experiences might have in common, and thus what it might tell you about your greater story of your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others. Okay, friends, and that's going to bring us to the end for today. Thanks as always for being here and listening until the end. I hope you liked this post as much as I did. And don't forget, we have our weekly bonus episodes each Sunday, and today's is live now. So be sure to check it out if you want more ORD, and I will hope to see you there, where your optimal life awaits.